Hello, thank you everybody for watching us here at Winning on Taxes. My name is Hubert Johnson. I'm the managing attorney and owner of Guardian Tax Law PLLC. I've been doing this for over 16 years. I've taught graduate tax law. I've lectured to tax professionals, co-written a couple books, and again, I appear regularly on national podcasts as a tax expert, trying to make taxes easy and help people win with their taxes and dealing with the IRS. So if that sounds like a tall order, it is. It really is. But that's why I love the challenge. I love helping people deal with the IRS. So just to start off, what is the IRS? It is the biggest collection agency in the world. So again, it rivals the governments of other smaller countries. That's how it's ginormous, but it's basically a collection agency. So if you think about where they're coming from and where the average representative is coming from when you talk to them, they just want the money. They just want you to pay them, and they want you to pay them as quickly as possible. However, because it's a government agency, you have rights and options as taxpayers, believe it or not. And will the IRS tell you what your rights and options are? In most cases, no. There are some people that are nice and sweet at the IRS. You get all kinds there. But in general, their job is not to protect your rights. Their job is to get the money, to get paid by taxpayers so that we can continue to fund the government and all that they do. So really, not only is it the biggest collection agency in the world, it is a giant bureaucracy. So when you think of how well bureaucracies fund, how well bureaucracies operate, we're seeing all kinds of stuff in the news where there's massive inefficiency in bureaucracies, agree with it, disagree with it. We're seeing massive cuts across the board. Dealing with the IRS is not so easy. If it can be compared to the DMV, it probably puts the DMV to shame as far as wasting people's time. And that's mainly because the IRS it's just this giant bureaucracy where it's like an octopus. You have all kinds of arms going out there, and none of them know what the other is doing. So it can be very scary for people. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there that scare people. They put out emails, they put out misleading advertisements. There's scams out there. I had someone where we just resolved their case and they got a letter saying the IRS is about to take your home. I called them up and I said, they don't know anything about your case. We just resolved your case. You're fine. You don't need to worry about anything. But this letter is designed to scare you and is designed to make it look like an IRS letter when it isn't. So if you think you're calling the IRS and you're thrown into a sales pitch, stop. Call and get good advice. And that's going to be one of the biggest suggestions here is getting good advice. So it's going to be really tough to figure out how to get through, how to deal with the IRS. But that's really what we're going to talk about. The first steps to dealing with the IRS. And given that due to Doge and the other federal cuts, they lost 6,000 workers and from the last week or second to last week in February. So ending with the 21st, that week they lost 6,000 employees. And I talked to people, revenue officers, collection agents there, and they all said how they lost people. So it's going to be harder than ever to get things done with the IRS, but you have to know where they're coming from. The service already wasn't great. And when you would call in, it was so common where people would call into the IRS. You would get pulled on hold. If you got put on hold at all, you could sit there for 2 hours, get disconnected. You have to call back. And many times if you called, they would tell you, look, our lines are busy. You have to call back some other time. And you would just get this recording. So you'd call back time and time. Does that happen to me as a professional? Absolutely. Is it frustrating? Sure. So how do you deal with this is you, first of all, have to understand what they want and how to get through to them. So that's what we're going to really touch on the next segment is, after this break, we're going to talk about what is the IRS, how do you get through them, what are some of the biggest challenges in dealing with this labyrinth of bureaucracy that is the IRS. So it's going to look like spaghetti noodles, but we're going to share an IRS map that's directly from the IRS, and kind of, not to scare people, but to give you an idea of what you're looking at and give you an idea of the scope of the agency that you're dealing with, that is the IRS. So if you have questions, write them down. You can reach out to us and we'll explain them all to you. After this next break, we'll dive into that.